evenings to do that. So
well, that's the tough part now, because I have a friend actually, Jim Taylor, who wants to get involved with this, and he bought the camera and everything, but he hasn't had one clear night. I said, well, just try to make sure everything focuses and try to do it if you can see any part of the moon, even just to make sure your system is actually working. That's from an electronic standpoint, and and everything in your capture standpoint, just to see if you got anything.
I think
But
there's
it's
some
been
good
really hard.
some good planetary nights ahead.
Yeah.
The
I hope.
season's just getting started.
The smoke is making me crazy.
The month.
Yeah.
Who's
Okay,
after
well,
Stan?
Okay.
John, why don't you go next?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm John, and I live in Mount Airy in Philly, and I have a similar equipment as Stan. I'm pretty new to it. I'm breaking all the rules as fast as possible. And so, and I'm doubling down because of all the smoke and all the bad rain. I ordered a German OTA. I got a telescope coming from Germany.
Oh,
It's
nice.
an 8-inch Newt carbon fiber body.
Ooh.
So I'll be shooting with that soon. Hopefully, we'll see.
What's the F ratio?
It's a f4. It's exactly like you have. So
Oh, that's cool.
I wanted the
You're
10-inch,
gonna love
but
it.
I don't think it'll fit on that mount, and I decided to make it easy on myself.
It's a
Yeah, and
nice
F4 is
fast
really
scope.
fast. It's nice.
So I'm excited. Yeah, I know some of y'all got new telescopes too. Everyone's itching to try their new telescope.
Yeah.
But
Of course, that's why it's bad weather.
mhm.
That's what
But
happens.
I'm having fun with the refractor and learning a lot. And so, yeah, I'll let the next person go.
Catherine?
We're brand new to this. I'm along for the ride with Xander. He has a telescope, but I'm always there helping. And so he'll talk a little bit about, he got based on what you guys said last time, we got the camera and but it's been really bad. I've been blaming him. I've been saying, look what you did. Look what you did. This happened. So
That's what always happens. Somebody buys new equipment, it always ruins everybody else.
And
It's not just, it's John's
and a total
fault.
lightning strikes in Canada,
Yeah.
So
Go
Xander,
ahead,
do you
make
have any
it now, Xander.
questions?
So far I don't have any questions other than with the pictures themselves, which I'll talk about like afterwards. But so yeah, we got the ASI 224, I believe. We only got 2 or 3 nights in before everything like clouded over and stuff like that. But that was also during the smoke. We got one good night. I got one good night to take pictures of Venus. And that was pretty much all I got so far, at least. I didn't get the moon because it wasn't up at that time, and I'm not staying up until like 0 o'clock in the morning to get the moon.
Your camera actually, it came with a little lens on it.
The
And
fish
you can do a time lapse. Just leave it run all night while you're sleeping. And then in the morning, you can compile them together. You can make a movie. And I actually have an example of that I could show you later if you like. Tom is our expert on planetary imaging and solar imaging.
I don't know about that. I do better in solar
very
and
modest.
planetary than I do in deep sky. The deep sky, I'm a reluctant, well, not reluctant, but I'm not an expert at all in deep sky. I'm learning a lot more lately because I've started getting more serious with the post-processing. I don't have the PixInsight software and all that. I use Cyril, which is a freeware version, which has some similarities to PixInsight, and has a lot of features. And that's really helped. That's up my game quite a bit with the photographs I can take. But I'm really, I view my deep sky as EAA, electronically assisted astronomy, so I can see things that I can't possibly see through my eyepiece. And from my backyard, it's very, very bright. I can see M42 and maybe M13, and that's about it. I can't see any of the galaxies at all. Any M101, 51. I can see 51 even. It's totally invisible. 81's invisible, and 82 through an 8-inch scope. Nothing's there. But I can get them real quick in like 5-10 seconds with the camera hooked up. So anyway, but I do I've done planetary more and solar longer than I've done this. I'm pretty new to the EAA type world. In the last probably have 2 years and now 2 years and a couple of months. But anyway, but it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy doing it. And it's fun doing comets and stuff and watching them move and that kind of thing. So that's what I do. Okay, Joe, I'll pass the baton to you.
For me, well, I'm just an old guy, and
Don't start like that.
I've
I'm older than you is a problem.
yeah,
I'm
you know,
older than you.
How can you be old and I'm not?
doing this. I do some wide field, and I do some deep sky and some lunar and planetary. And I really love it and enjoy it. And like everybody else, you have your mixture of successes and failures. But I'm live in Springfield, Delaware County, so I'm Bortle 7, and everybody in my neighborhood must have known that I'm an amateur astronomer because they all put in security lights, these new bright LED lights. So you could land a 747 in my backyard right now. So it's not really conducive very much for deep sky. Sometimes I go to Frank Colosimo's Blue Mountain and do some observing from up there, some deep sky, and try to do some lunar and planetary from and solar from the digs here. Right now it's about the only thing I can really do effectively here. So I guess that's about it for me. But
Trebler Croc, you want to tell us a little bit about what you were into?
Yeah, I guess I do some astrophotography. Got a backyard observatory in, I guess, Chaddsford, Pennsylvania, and collect a lot of data, but I don't ever process it. So that's sort of what I do. So
You collect but don't process it.
I like what they look like on the computer, and just never kind of figured out how to go past that point. So
Well, you're in the right place, Bob.
yeah, one of these days.
It takes a lot of patience too. I mean, it takes patience to learn how to collect the data, but even to process it, it can make you bananas. But that's half the fun, not going bananas or going bananas.
Yeah.
Dan, how about Dan? Dan's got some wonderful images, and he's got a nice setup. Where in Chile, Dan? And in Florida?
I have telescopes in Chile, and I'm in South Florida right now. Normally I'm in Philadelphia, but I'm downtown in Bortle 9 and can't do anything from there. So when I'm in Florida, there's a dark place about 2 hours from here that I go to quite a bit. I have a refractor that I take there, but most of the stuff that I do is out of Chile. And something interesting I came across yesterday, I've been taking pictures of planetary nebula, and I came across a website where a bunch of academics list targets for amateurs to shoot because they don't have the telescope time, or they just don't have the time. There are 400 and some odd targets out there that they're looking for data. So anyway, I found this thing, and last night I pointed the telescope up, and you point it in the sky and you start taking pictures, and picture after picture after picture, you see absolutely nothing. And I did that all night, and in the morning, I processed it, and lo and behold, there's something there. Can't really see much yet, but I may have validated that there's a planetary nebula out in the middle of nowhere. And it was incredibly cool.
Nice.
Oh, Dan, could you put that link in the chat?
Yeah, I'll dig it up.
Okay.
Or actually, can you put it in on the website on the forum?
Sure.
Or do you have it there?
Thank you.
Do you know how to do that?
Great.
But it's you feel like you discovered something, but I don't know how these guys come across it. They must scan the sky with God knows what, but they have all these targets out there. Some of them are like 0.1 arc minutes, but I found a pretty big one. It was 10 arc minutes.
Well,
And,
will you get to name it if no one else discovered it?
I guess maybe.
There you
It's
go.
funny, it's right, it was smack in the middle of the thing, and I couldn't see much. I only took I took HA data and I took O3 data. The O3 was totally destroyed by the moonlight because it's pretty late. So I didn't get much there, but the HA doesn't get affected as much by moonlight. And there was a lot of hydrogen out there. I was surprised. And right in the middle of the image, there's something that looks like a dog's face, which was it was very cool. So if I get to name it, I think I'm going to name it the dog's face, the dog's
There you
face nebula. But it was really, really something. When all of a sudden you look at the data and you see something out of nothing. I mean, and I took picture after picture after picture. You're just hoping you're pointing at the right place in the sky, else you just wasted a whole night. But it was pretty neat.
All right, Doug, you want to go next?
Oh, thank you, Lou. Oh, well, I've been doing, my story is the opposite of Robert's. Because all I've been doing for the last month or so is just reprocessing my old images. And I've been doing that in Surreal also. So I don't know, because Lou, you said that you were gonna do a PixInsight workflow tonight. Are you still thinking of doing that?
Yeah, if you guys want
Yeah.
to. I think Dan had a question about HA
Yeah.
data, and you want to. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. We'll
Because-
do that later.
Yeah, because Lou, I was going to suggest to make it a little bit more fun, we could have an astrophotography shootout. If you could like upload your raw data to me,
Oh, okay.
and I can give you the link. I can your lights and your calibration frames to me, and I will run them through Surreal and the GIMP and the open source stuff, and see. Let's see what we get.
Sure, I'll put them in a
Yeah, and I'll send you
Google
an,
Drive.
yeah, I'll send you the link so you can upload
Okay.
it to me.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I got some data on the website that Doug, that you can try.
The
do you do,
DVAA website?
yeah,
Okay.
it's of the Running Chicken Nebula,
Mhm.
and it's really good data. So you'll have some fun with it. Do you do RBG? Do you do narrowband or wideband? What do you do?
Well, I have a one-shot color camera. So I mean, I sometimes put like I've got a couple of narrowband filters that I use. But
Yeah,
like dual narrowband filters, like in Optilon L Extreme.
it's narrowband
Yeah.
data, but I
Yeah.
won an award with the data, so see what you can do.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because Dan, I'm not I hate to be a pessimist, but I'm not really optimistic about July in Southeast Pennsylvania. In terms of
positive.
if we get a nice night, I'll grab it. But I've been working with processing. I've just been doing processing. And by the way, what inspires me more than anything else is cheapness. I adore cheapness. And I have this YouTube video by this guy Ahmed, Sulhaib Ahmed. I think he's Pakistani, and he's got a Celestron C8. But he doesn't need his whole presentation is he doesn't need no stinking Hyperstar. He's got a little adapter that he made, and he puts the CAD file out on his out on the YouTube site. And he doesn't use a Hyperstar. He just mounts his camera on the front of his SCT. And I think, that's the kind of thing that I have to try. I think he uses like a field flattener. And I saw his images on YouTube, but it's hard to tell on YouTube. So
All right, Steve, you ready to go?
Sure.
Don't sound so enthusiastic.
So I live in Massachusetts, and Tom happens to be my brother-in-law, so that's how I became associated with this group. My observing site is my back patio, and due to some physical constraints, I don't do much traveling, and I can't carry heavy objects. So I do have an 8-inch job, but it's been covered up for a few years now. And I'm using 2 small telescopes, a Sharp Star 61 millimeter, which is f 4.5, and also a Celestron C6 Schmidt Cassegrain. So whichever telescope I have outside stays outside and gets covered with a gizmo cover. So everything is pretty much automated to where I'm sitting right here. Other than taking the covers off, I can start it up, get the ASI air going, take a full night's run of whatever object I'm tracking. I have guiding on everything. Shut it down, and the next morning go out and put the covers on. So that's my process. I love it. I've been having a great time with it. I have a lot of hobbies, but many of them I can't do anymore. But this I can. So it's been good for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy meeting all you guys. Many of you have helped me, especially Tom, but also Joe and Blue and many others have helped me over the last couple of years getting up and running. So it's greatly appreciated. And all you new people, take advantage of that. Everybody here is willing to help. So that's my story.
Thank you, Steve. Bill,
Yo,
you want to tell us a little bit about your setup and your interest?
sure. Okay, my name's Bill. I am an old member of DVAA. Life got in the way and joined the club again, I guess a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. Got into EAA about 2 years ago, and it was just a natural to, start processing photos and so on. So I bit the bullet and got PixInsight, I guess, about 8 months ago, and was trying to make heads and tails of it and moving along at a snail's pace. I have 2 scopes and 2 mounts. One's a 6-inch Newtonian, which I modified this spring. I put I 3D printed a rear insert and have a cooling fan on it. And it also blocks any stray light from coming in the back, which they're known for. I have an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain. I have an AVX mount, and I have an EQ6R Pro mount. Next piece of equipment is going to be a second ASI Air Plus, so that I don't have to break down one scope and set up another one. Hopefully I'll be able to run both of them if I choose to do so. My biggest stumbling block with PixInsight right now is using Gary's workflow. I cannot figure out in the easy processing suite the easy decon. Somebody's got to show me how to use it.
We'll go over that later. I have a cheat for you that you'll really love.
Okay. And let's say I've been into astronomy for over 40 years, but the cameras and everything, I got into that about, like I said, about 2 years ago. And the other thing that I'm looking at now is buying a refractor. I'm thinking of the Ascar FRA 400 or the 500. I haven't decided which one yet. And that's pretty much it. Oh, the weather's been absolutely terrible for the past month.
Don't buy any stuff because then you'll make bad weather.
We'll keep it
Yeah, well,
going.
it can't get any worse because I haven't had my scope set up in over a month because of either smoke or weather or whatever.
All right, Scott, you want to tell us a little bit about your setup and interests?
My setup is collecting dust. I haven't had it set up in, well, a while actually. I mean, I had it over the winter and then my camera went bad and then I got a replacement camera and I haven't set it up since I got the replacement camera. So mostly collecting dust at the moment, but I have a Williams Optic Z73, so a small astrograph, but what were you saying, Lou?
Your camera, you have a ZWO ASI.
I have the 2600.
2600.
Yeah, but I had the one that leaked oil on it, so it took a while to get it replaced.
All right.
So.
Yeah, I wanted you to mention that to people so they wouldn't be scared about buying that camera.
They fixed the problem. There you go.
Yeah. So apparently there was an issue with the seal around this camera that if it got too hot, it would leak right onto the sensor. And it was a whole batch. It happened not only to Scott, but it happened to Gary. A ZWO ASI with great customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah. They replaced it. And I bought the same camera since the fix, and I haven't had the same problem. So in case anybody was reading about that, don't be scared. That's a great camera.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing camera. With it, it collects great data that then sits on a hard drive too. So a little behind on getting data, processing data, but I work too much. So that's life gets in the way right now for me. So maybe I'll just go down to Stan's house and just get some pictures from him.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm Lou. And I have an observatory in my backyard. I started using an old DSLR that was obsolete, but the old DSLRs are still, if you're getting started, it's a great way to start because you don't spend a lot of money. I was using a Canon EOS Rebel 1000D. I think you could pick one up on Amazon used for 25 bucks. The one I got, a friend of mine found it in a parking lot. So I got it for free. Somebody must have left it on top of their car and drove away. But at any rate, the disadvantage to an old DSLR camera is that even though, their noise profile is relatively quiet compared to other cameras, it's a little noisier than most typical astrophotography camera, but you can overcome that very easily by just adding more data. So instead of using an hour's worth of data, you can get rid of the noise by using 4 hours or 2 hours of data. So that's a disadvantage, but the advantage was it was free. Now I upgraded and I bought the same camera that Scott has, and I've only used that twice so far. It's very impressive, and I'm actually going to show you a picture I took with it in a few seconds here in the presentation I'm going to show. I've done also nowhere near to the extent of Tom, but some planetary imaging, and I have one moon picture and one solar picture. I am nowhere near the expert on planetary imaging. So if you have questions for that, Tom is the guy you want to go to. And Joe as well. Joe knows, but I think Tom is definitely an expert on all that. All right, let me get started first. For those of you who are interested in doing deep sky photography, there's three things you have to have. patience, patience, and patience. Everything else is not important if you don't have those three things. But this hobby, if you don't have patience, you will learn patience if you're going to succeed in it. Without patience, you cannot go far. You're going to have everything set up. I'm just going to tell you this is going to happen to you. It's going to happen to me again. It's going to happen to everybody. You're not going to know what's wrong. It's going to be something small. And you're not going to figure it out, and you're going to waste a whole perfect clear night. But you have to put that, when you figure it out, you got to put it behind you. Wait till the next meeting and figure, talk to us. Because chances are one of us has gone through whatever problem you're going to come across. If not, we'll try to put our heads together collectively and figure it out. I mean, to give you an example of one of the silliest mistakes I made, the Canon camera that I have has a automatic screen cleaner. So basically it works by static electricity, and it cleans all the dust off of it. Well, I had originally set that to off. Somehow, somewhere, I must have bumped the menu without realizing it. And for months, it must have been 6 months, must have gone by, I couldn't figure out why I was getting little spots all over my frame. But there's a fix for that. You can eliminate, if you have those spots, there's a calibration frame you can take to deal with them. However, I couldn't deal with them because the spots kept moving. So apparently every time I turned the camera on, this automatic cleaner would go, the little specks of dust would jump from one part of the camera to the next. And it wasn't until that, I went down the menu of the camera and I saw that option was on by accident. I didn't even think to look. But anyway, so the whole purpose of this this lecture or presentation is about these calibration frames that will eliminate these spots. So there are a few different kinds of calibration frames that everybody should be taking. So first you get your data, your light, which is called your light frames, the object that you're imaging. So when you're doing deep sky photography, a lot of times it requires a very long exposure, but that's unpractical to do. And nowadays, we have digital photography. We can break it down into 3-minute or 5-minute increments, and the software can combine all these 3-minute or 5-minute or 60-second, however long you determine that you need, and you stack them together. Because can you imagine if you're sitting there and you're having a 45-minute exposure on a perfectly clear night, and minute number 44, a 747 just drives by your picture and ruins it. If you're not there with a hat to cover your telescope, you just lost 45 minutes worth of work. But if you take 5 minutes of exposures at a time, theoretically, you can just throw that out and just take another 5 minutes. But even better than that, the software that we use to stack the stuff can actually remove these streaks from a satellite, from planes, without throwing out the frame. So it compares all the other frames and sees what pixels are off by a certain amount, and it's able to get rid of those errors. So there's an advantage for DSLR cameras. So because it's so easy to do that, I'm a little bit crazy. Some of the images I've taken pictures of with my DSLR have gone 18 hours of data. I have one picture that I took 46 hours of data on, and that was probably the cleanest picture I've ever seen, I've ever taken. It's all about signal to noise ratio. But there is a certain point where you go past where you have diminishing returns. So maybe 46 hours might have been a little bit excessive, but for the particular camera that I had, it actually wasn't. But that's another conversation that's, I don't want to get into now. We'll get into that into detail another time. But at any rate, so one of the ways we clean up the cameras is by taking several frames. Another way we clean up the noise is every time you turn on your camera, there's a signal that causes noise. Just the nature of the electronics. Doesn't matter if it's a DSLR or a new expensive camera, it's basically the fingerprint of the camera. And you can easily eliminate that. What you do is you just take the fastest exposure possible of that camera. Like on my DSLR, I would set it to 1/4000th of a second because that's as fast as it can go. And, basically these are called bias frames. And I would just take 150 of those and stack them together. And the software would make a nice smooth representation of the noise. And then that would get subtracted from the main stack. Another calibration frame is a dark frame, which you would take in the same exact conditions that you took your light frames. In other words, it would have to be, if your exposure on your light frame was 5 minutes and you had 100 of them, you would need 5 minutes and 100 dark frames. All you do for a dark frame is put the lens cap on the camera and just make sure the temperature is exactly the same as your light frames, and take 100 pictures, 5 minutes long. Now, that may seem like a waste of time, but what's great about it is almost all the software out there tells you what temperature the light frames are taken at. So I never took dark frames at night after I took the light. I would take the camera in the house and I would, put it in a closet, and sometimes I would have to wrap it in a bunch of towels and then put a heating pad around it and try to get it as close to the temperature that way. Sometimes my wife would go nuts. She's like, "Why is the camera in the dryer basket with the hot towels?" Or I'd put it in the refrigerator while I'm taking these frames. But anyway, so I would do this when it's cloudy, when I wasn't using the camera, and I'd build up a library. So and I would make sure that I label them with the right temperature, so that when I have the light frames, I just go into the library and get the corresponding temperature. So, and I would just replace them every 6 months or so. And finally, the example I wanted to show you, the last frame we wanted to talk about are flat frames. Now, when I first started astrophotography, I did not take flat frames. I thought they were too difficult to take, but they really aren't. I didn't realize what benefit they would give. Basically, what a flat frame does is if there's any kind of scratches on your lens, it'll remove the scratch. If there's those stupid little dust motes that I was talking about, as long as you don't have the automatic cleaner on, the flat frame will take a picture of those dust motes. And then what you would do is you would divide the flat frame by the light frame, and it will even out the dust spots. It will also get rid of any vignetting around the edges. Like the edges of your picture would be darker. So the way you take flat frames is there's a couple ways to do it, but what you want to do is take a picture of an evenly illuminated surface. Some people use the night sky. John here puts this white panel on there. I have a tracing pad that I put on top of my camera that's illuminated. You know, sometimes I would, if it's a cloudy day, I went to Amazon and I bought like a semi-opaque acrylic panel, and I built a box. Box like this. In this box, now you can see it's empty. I have little shelf markers in here, and I would put 3 or 4 acrylic panels in here to disperse the light. And then this whole contraption would sit on top of my telescope. So now, you know, I could do this during the daytime as long, especially if it was cloudy. Because, you know, if it's cloudy, the light's already dispersed. But if you have one panel here, one panel here, by the time the light gets to here, it's even. Or you can even put a light bulb on the top. But this is something you can make yourself. I mean, I've got this from Michael's. There's some, I got these little plastic corners and with a hot glue gun. And I'm not done making this one. This is the second one I made in 5 years. The first one fell apart. I'm still making this. If you need help, let me know and I'm happy to help. Okay, so that's how I take flat frames. Before I go any further and show you an example, does anybody have any questions about any of these type of frames? Now, when you're doing planetary imaging, you don't need flat frames. I mean, you can use them, but because you're using such a small part of the sensor, unless you're doing a whole moon, a flat frame really.
If you keep your lens clean,
Yeah.
then it's you know, it's a lot easier to keep your lens clean than
Yes.
it is to make flat frames. I mean, basically when I handle a camera, it's always, every time I take the cover off, it's always aiming down, not even sideways. But when I screw in the 1 1/4 inch nose piece, always aiming down. I cleaned my one camera I have for 2 years now. For the first time, I had one little dust mote on it in 2 years. And I could just blow it off a little bit of air. And so if you're really careful, you don't get the dust motes. You don't get dust motes, flats, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, for planet, that's especially true for planetary imaging because you don't have to worry about vignetting with planetary imaging. There's very few times that Jupiter is not going to fill up your entire screen. Right? I mean,
Right.
and if there's a dust
Pretty
mote,
long focal length.
yeah, well, yeah. And if there's a dust mote, you can easily you can
avoid it.
If you forgot to clean it, you can avoid it, right? But so here, let me share my screen. Anybody have any questions aside from that? All right, let me share my screen here. Okay. Okay. So can you see my folder here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a picture of the Elephant Trunk Nebula. And this is one that's calibrated that doesn't have, that has flat frames. You see everything is all smooth all the way around. All right. And here's one of the same exact picture, but I didn't use flat frames. And you see the difference? There's a dust mote right there. See the crazy vignetting you get? See how it's really faint in the center? All that. A flat frame will fix all that. So that's, until I did this the first time, I never saw a reason to take flat frames. And I tried to process this every which way I could to get rid of, to make it easier. I couldn't get rid of, I mean, maybe that's slightly better, but the dust mode is bigger. The vignette, there's another dust mode that popped up over there. And there's the last example. Yeah, so anyway, big difference between that and this one. I mean, see how much cleaner that is? All right, so if anybody had a reason why they wanted to use flat frames, that's it. All right, so with that, we're going to move to the picture sharing portion of our workshop. So I'm sharing my picture. This is the Elephant Trunk Nebula. This is 3 hours and 35 minutes of exposure. So each of them were 5 minutes long. There's 150 bias frames, 50, and when I do flats, 50 I found is the magic number. I don't need to do more than 50. 50 are usually fine. That makes them smooth enough so that you don't see any artifacts or anything else. And I had, I think 97 dark frames on this. The details are in the newsletter this month, if you guys are curious.
Beautiful, Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice shot.
If you notice, this is H alpha signal was all this red stuff is hydrogen alpha. This was taken with the ZW ASI 2600, and that camera, unlike your DSLR cameras, has opened up that part of the spectrum to pick up some of more of the H alpha data. On a typical DSLR camera, you're only getting 25% of that signal. And
Do you use a filter, Lou?
I did not use a filter at all.
Okay.
But later on, after we're done, I'll go, if you guys are still around and I'm awake, I'll go through the workflow on how we got the H alpha signal to come out. All right, so anybody else want to go next on sharing their images and telling us a little bit about it?
I have a couple questions about my pictures because I had a little bit of trouble with like the post-processing, not gathering the images. I have a couple questions for those. If that would
You
be
want to? All right, I made you shareable. If you want to share your image, we're happy to see it and answer questions.
okay. Let me pull it up here.
Ooh, nice desktop.
Thank you. So I'm gonna try to pull the picture.
Oh, you play World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I play with my
Not
mom.
enough. He doesn't play enough.
I lost 6 years of my life playing that game.
Okay.
You have the right software there. I see you got Registax, Deep Sky Stacker.
This is the picture that I ended up getting, but it's okay. There's a couple other ones I got.
That's Venus.
Yeah, that's Venus.
That's better than I could do.
The biggest problem that I have with these is when I up the saturation right here, if you could look at the top, like
Yeah.
it's kind of colored, and the hole on the outside of the edge, there's kind of like a little mist, like
I'll let Tom answer that because I'm sure he knows.
Yeah, well, you're looking at that. I mean, actually, that's a that's a very good shot, especially
Isn't it?
for an early shot. That's very good. Venus is tough. I actually took a picture today of Venus. I didn't process it yet, but it's a little more crescent-y than this. But it's unless you're using, there's guys use these UV filters, and they can actually get some like some darker spots like the clouds and stuff. But all it passes is parts of the UV. But I don't have that. I just put I just pretty much plunk the camera down. I do have a cutoff. I actually cut the UV off as long as and the IR. But that's not bad. Venus is very hard. Now the color on top and the bottom, this is something that you you get on the planets because of the atmosphere acts like a prism. We had a fellow on named Agapios Elia. He's in Cyprus. He's actually an honorary member of the club, and he gave a real good talk on this device called an atmospheric dispersion corrector. And they used to be like thousands of dollars, and then now they have them for about 200, I think. And he convinced me that it is the thing to get. And I bought one last summer, really, I guess, about this time or in August of last year. And basically, you adjust it so you can get rid of. If you're looking at Jupiter, if you take a picture of Jupiter, as you will as the months come, next few months, and Saturn, there'll be red on the top, usually, and blue on the bottom. I think I got that right. And or else it's reversed. But the atmospheric dispersion corrector gets rid of the prismatic effect of the atmosphere and is like a miracle bullet. It's like a silver bullet. But that's actually pretty good. Venus is tough because it does have an atmosphere, so it's not a sharp edge. And it's easy to get a bright ring on the outside. I mean, it's a little tricky. But it actually gets more interesting as it gets thinner and thinner crescent. If you were to photograph it today, for example, it would have been a thinner crescent, so it begins to look a little bit better. But really doesn't start to look really good till it's below 20% illuminated. Typically around 15%, it gets pretty interesting. And from that point on, right through the inferior conjunction period, where it's kind of between the Earth and the Sun. But that's not a bad shot at all. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you went through the auto stacker and Registacks.
Yeah, but during the very first one, I believe it was PIPP. There was like I'll try to pull up one of the videos that I got. I'm not sure if this is normal, but it seemed that I had like distortion around if I pull up one of the final, if I go back, I had a lot of almost like pixelation near the edge. They were like red pixels. I put on like a hot pixel filter in the PIPP settings, and that seemed to fix it. Like it made that go away. So I wonder if those were like, I don't know exactly what it was. I'm trying to pull up another picture, but that was another one of my main issues. Was there was like pixelation. I don't exactly know how to describe it. Here we go.
Well, I mean, today I think Venus is it's in the low 30s seconds of arc. So it's medium size. It's a lot bigger than Mars was, but smaller than Jupiter is. And it'll get bigger, so that gets better. But especially if you don't have a lot of magnification on it, you need to get over 1,000 millimeter focal length, preferably closer to 2,000.
2000.
But
Yeah,
but you can see, because if you shoot, the problem with Venus is, now I shot it during when it was daylight and high in the sky. It's visible in your finder scope. It's a little tricky. You got to be careful when you're doing Venus in the daytime. But the problem is you wait till nighttime, it's lower in the atmosphere. So you're going to get more of that red-green prism effect. As it goes higher, you have less of that. And also you have more distortion going on because looking through more atmosphere. So there's more chance for distortion. But but you could see in the video, the challenge of planetary, you can see it was dancing. I mean, it goes in and out. It's tricky. Venus is really hard to focus on because if you do it in the daytime, when it's higher in the sky, the atmosphere boils a lot more in the daytime than at nighttime. It calms down a bit at nighttime. So that's one problem with solar photography and planetary photography, and when the sun's out like that, is that there's more ground warming. There's a lot of turbulence. Typically, and so it really, if any slightest bit out of focus, it really basically breaks apart into like filaments almost. but it's good you got to that point. Now, if you were to take a picture of the moon, you would get it. Now you see it jumping around. And I can see
Yeah.
a pixel or two pop in there, but the
That's normal.
yeah, I mean it's at that small size there, at that lower focal length, you're only covering not that many pixels, probably. You
Yeah,
know,
that's why you're
maybe
pixelated.
maybe like 100. Because back when this picture was taken, Venus was probably about 23 or 24 seconds of arc, probably, maybe 25. So it's not real big. I mean, you're not talking like the moon or something. When you take a picture of the moon, you're gonna love it in comparison because it's gonna be a lot easier to focus. It's gonna be night and day easier. You'll still see it boil in your video, but nothing like this. It won't be dancing as much as this. That's actually that's actually pretty good as far as dancing, and that's a good size image.
Xander, you've never done this before.
Yeah, this is that was my, I think that was my second night out.
This is impressive, dude.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That means your focus is good. The focus is
Yeah.
tricky
It's hard to
because
focus.
because you're using you need higher magnification, but higher magnification, if you breathe on the telescope, it begins to move basically. So focusing is tricky because you keep bumping and it moves around more and it has to settle out and that kind of thing.
Yeah, if a bird flaps.
But that's actually quite a good, especially for like the first attempts is really good.
That's
That
really
was
good.
with a
I
3
have a
times.
question though. Are you shooting like with a region of interest? Like, how big is your frame?
I believe my frame is, if I go into ASI Studio, when I go in there, I put my frame as, I think 620 by 620.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you can probably go.
How many frames per second are you getting?
I'll have to check. I believe at that point, I'll check in.
See, what you can do is you can crop that size. You use software called Fire Capture, and what it'll do is it'll follow Venus across the sky, and it'll just outline it. So you're using a smaller part of your sensor, and so that's less data that it has to transmit. So you'll be able to get like 150.
Now you got a pretty big
seconds.
capture size. It's 13.4 by 976.
Yeah. See, I'm wondering if maybe on that one he's dropping a couple frames because sometimes it's hard to download. Like with my computer, I can't download that fast and I start dropping frames.
Yeah, you can,
and that might be
small.
what's producing what he feels is pixelization,
Yeah,
with the
I
wide
don't
frame.
know. I mean, I have, I don't have the 224, but I was using 462. It's got like a 2.9 micropixel size, but basically today I actually, Xander, I cropped down my area down to 240 by 320.
Yeah,
to be really small. And because it's small like that, my frame rate got up to about 270 frames a second.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Which really gives you a ton of it. You're not moving that much data for each frame. You're getting a lot of frames, and Venus is bright, so you're shooting, in a fraction of a millisecond. So you can really get a lot. You can get like 12,000 frames in like less than a minute, kind of a thing.
I guess
and then you can pick the best two or 300,
Right.
maybe
If your
500.
mount can support it, if you can get down to like a smaller format, you may not see that pixelization.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Xander, I posted a link on the chat.
In the chat.
You should watch that. It's the one that Tom was talking about with the atmospheric dispersion corrector. It was done by the planetary imager Agapio Celia from the country
from the planet Earth.
from the planet Zelda. Anyway,
Just an earthling.
yeah, watch
He's an
that.
earthling.
It's a very good tutorial. And normally, it's not something I would recommend to beginners, but dude, I mean, you got a good handle on this.
As you can see in your video, Xander, how fast Venus is moving and changing shape and stuff. So there's there's only brief moments, less than a second, like half second, quarter second length periods, where it's sharp, and then it gets fuzzy and it gets sharp. And so the one of the keys is for lunar, planetary, solar type stuff is to try to get your exposure as short as possible, so that you're only exposing each frame's maybe 500th or 1,000th of a second if it's possible, and get your frame rate up so that if there is a clear quarter of a second, maybe you get 50 good frames in that quarter of a second.
What I can tell you is that I took 3,000 frames on most of those, and that took around like 30 seconds to 45 seconds. That's just a guess, but that's about how long it took. I'm not sure what the math is on that. It took 45 seconds, 30 seconds to do.
It's 100 frames a
Well, if it was
second.
30 and you got 3,000, that's 6,000 frames a minute. I mean, you're doing pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you're doing
at a decent rate. Probably at that size, the frame rate, and that's pretty close to full size. Probably it's probably how your full frame is probably going to max out at about probably around 50 frames a second is the best you could do. However, if you crop it down, like Joe was saying, you make it smaller, make it 600 by 600 or 400 by 400, get it down smaller, your frame rate is going to start shooting up. And so you get a
If
lot
your
more
mount can
frames.
support it, if your mount is, when you're down with a small size like that, the mount's got to be pretty accurate, and if it's going out of view a lot, then
It's not good.
yeah,
Then you can bump it up.
You
Yeah.
just have to figure that out,
Yeah, basically, it's the accuracy in which the mount is pointed at the North Celestial Pole, basically, like how close you line up there. So it's because you're probably not perfect, so you're slowly drifting. And the smaller you make that frame, that drifting is going to happen a lot quicker.
What I was doing was I was putting I have a Nexstar 4-inch, and I put the motor speed to 4, and that it seemed to track it perfect. If I hold the 2 top and the 2 left buttons down, it tracked it perfectly.
You were
along the
doing it
front.
manually.
He did it manually.
Manually.
Wow.
Something
Talk
like
about
that.
determination.
Yeah,
He
you
was
got to
determined.
talk to John some more.
Yeah,
It's the
what's
kind of
that?
stuff John does.
Do it
all the
manual.
time.
Yeah,
Great.
Xander, click on that link. This guy will answer. He talks about everything, all your questions. It's in the meeting chat there.
One quick
Yeah.
comment I wanted to throw in. It looks like you're saving an AVI file. I don't know if you guys have you heard of .ser? So the
Yeah, I
AVI file.
Usually, I try to save an SCR. Usually, if you go full, depends in the mode. Like if those camera could be like RAW 8 or RAW 16 or RAW 12, whatever it is. I'm not sure what that camera has available, but in SharpCap, you have SharpCap there, I think. And so, if you you're doing it to ASI, I guess. But if you can, depending on the format you're in, if I shoot at like in like mono 8 with a color camera, it becomes an AVI file by default. It won't be an SCR file. I always try to shoot this. I always try to shoot, if I have a color camera, I shoot like RAW 16, whatever the highest value is. And the disadvantage over the larger number is really just file size. Your file size gets bigger, but you have a little more shades of color, so it's a trade-off there. But
And for auto stacker, should I prefer to use more frames? Well, obviously you should prefer to use more frames, but if I have a certain amount of frames, should I select what the top 10%, top 20%, top 50%?
It depends.
every picture is different.
Watch that video. All these questions in that are going to be answered in that link. That's a very good question.
Yeah, if you look, Xander, when you open up AutoStacker, in the right side of the screen where the image is, after you do the analyze, and it puts them in order, if you move up to that slider bar at the very top of that right-hand window and move it across, and right below the slider bar, it has a Q, and that's the quality of the frame as comparison to the best frame. And you can slide it, and I like to keep it 50% or higher. So if you start sliding that over to like 100 frames, 150 frames, you start dropping to around 40%. That's not great. So you want to now. You know you have a good video and the air has been good if you shoot 6,000 frames and you're sliding that thing to 3,000 and it still says 50%. Now if I do that, I usually don't stack more than 1,000 to 2,000 frames. If it's a really good video and I have like 6,000 or more frames, 10,000 frames, I may go and stack 2,000. But I watched there's a little cue there and you just slide it. It gives you a percentage, and you want that percentage not to get below 50%.
Yeah, so the one that I did on that specific picture I just showed you, I think I put it on 10%, the top 10% picture. So now I know I should put it more percent.
Well, hold on. That's not what Tom said.
Well,
You might need, it might be 10%.
10% may not, maybe you may have a poor quality, even at taking the top 10%.
Yeah.
You may have really good quality taking 50%. You know, the advantage of more frames is when you go to process it further, because it stacks everything up, right? So you have this one TIF file or TIFF file or something, TIFF file, that when you go into Registack, if you only have 50 frames or 100 frames, it gets granular really quickly. If you have a really good night and you can stack 2,000 frames, you can do more heavy processing of Registacks to sharpen it because it's such a deep stacked image that it smooths out a lot easier.
Yeah, you just want to keep the quality above that certain amount. And if you have a good night, like Tom said, I mean, around here, it's Tom, how many nights can you count in a year?
We haven't had really any in the spring at all, but in the fall it was surprising because we had 2 nights in September that were excellent. We probably had 3 in October, maybe 2 in November, 1 in December. I mean, it was really good. I mean, because
so keep that in mind. Like, not all these problems are it's a lot of it's the sky.
If it's atmosphere, I mean, if the seeing is boiling, a cold front comes in, your sky may be more transparent, but you're probably going to be, especially the first day after a front moves in, it's usually the seeing is less sharp. The second day, it's much better, and third day usually gets better. By the fourth day, a new front's moving.
I think all of us here are impressed, Xander, for the first attempt here, first or second attempt. I know
planets are a lot harder. I mean, planets are tough, and that's a very respectable picture of a planet.
I think Venus would be hard. Yeah.
On the next moon cycle, which is probably almost 2 weeks away, but just past full now. But you get that out, the image the moon, you're gonna have a blast. You're gonna get some really good results, I think. If you're getting those kind of results on Venus, you'll probably get some very pleasing results on the moon, I suspect.
And with the same camera, the ASI 224, we haven't tried it yet. I'm pretty sure it would be difficult, but I got some good pictures here. I'll show you real quick on my phone with my Dobsonian. I have a 10-inch Dobsonian that we took to Cherry Springs, and I got some.
Nice.
These ones we took here, actually, of the Ring Nebula. That's what we got from the Ring.
Oh, you were holding that? Oh, we can't see.
Yeah.
You gotta turn your
Get rid of your back.
on.
Can you get rid of your background?
Yeah, hold on.
You actually showed me these photos at the last meeting. I was stunned that you could handhold a camera and get a picture of the Ring Nebula.
Wow.
Look at that.
Very nice.
That's unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
So, Xander, here's another thing you can do with your camera. With just the tripod, not even track, you don't have to pull or align it or anything. Let me share the screen. And you can, if you want to share something again. Now, can you see this the greenish type image here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Wait, where is the play button? Here we go. So this is their like 25-second exposures. and I just let it go all night with that little lens the camera came with, that little cheap
You can see the
$12
stars rotating.
lens. And sometimes you'll catch a satellite, sometimes there's the Pleiades down the bottom there. Sometimes you'll catch other things, like
You can get a
shooting
meteor
star,
sometimes.
an asteroid, a meteor, right? Yeah, a meteor. Let me see if I have another one here.
So what were the settings on this 25-second exposure?
I just did a 25-second exposure and I did like 600 exposures and I just let it go.
So is that constantly taking an exposure then?
Yeah, every 25
Okay.
seconds it's taking one picture.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So it takes one frame every 25 seconds, and then as soon as one's done, it takes the next one. And
Each exposure is 25 seconds. Hold on. I think I did it. Each exposure is 25 seconds and I did it every minute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Something like that. But you can play around with it. Let me see.
yeah,
I have other ones.
and one of the reasons he limited it to 25 seconds is, well, there could be two reasons. One, if your sky's real bright, you may start to wash your sky out. But one thing that at that short 25 seconds, and it's such a short focal length lens, the stars are still nice and round. If you were to take a 1 minute exposure, they'd probably be short lines and wouldn't be as attractive.
Let me
And
see
that's
what
when I
the,
saw.
The fisheye with the where it comes with it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that it comes with. Let me see if I can. I don't know. Well, I don't know why I can't open these up. But anyway, you get the idea. I had a lot of fun with this. I took, I don't know. Oh yeah, here we go. It was just small. Okay, this one was minimized, so you see it looks all streaky. And I'm sure the quality is not coming through any good. But it's fun to take pictures of the clouds too as they.
Yeah, it's kind
go
of
by.
neat.
Yeah, this is a poor quality, but anyway. Oh wait, there's a better one there. See if I can get that bigger. There's a couple I got some meteors on there, and you can see the lights on the tree. My neighbor turned his lights on, and the tree lit up, and then he turned them off. But there is the Milky Way. Now look near the end. Let me see if I could pause it. There it is, right there. There's the edge of the Milky Way. I don't know if you can see that or not, but
This would be cool to do like at Cherry Springs where it's really super dark.
That would be awesome at Cherry Springs. Yeah, let me stop sharing.
Yeah, right now at least for now we're planning a trip up there in August sometime. So that would be cool to take the camera there and do it. So when I was using my ASI 224 on with the 4-inch, I was trying to look at Arcturus or Vega, I forget which one. But I was trying to look at it, and this might be user error on my part, just not aiming it at it correctly, but I didn't see anything. And I tried upping my exposure, and I think like at least you should be able to see it with that. I don't know if it's the aperture of the telescope itself. I don't know if it's when I looked through the eyepiece, I could see it just fine. But
what were you looking for? Aliens?
Well, I was just trying to take a picture of a star
Yeah.
because I put it on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel if you want me to pull it up.
Yeah,
That actually sounds like
post the
you're
link
probably
on
out
it.
of focus.
Post the link on the chat.
Yeah, that's one of the. Yeah, I think you hit it, Scott. There's
Just
two
that far out of
things.
focus, you see nothing.
Yeah, the chips are pretty small, so you want to make sure if you're lining it up visually, make sure you got it really, really dead centered. But your focus is tricky. If your focus is off by quite a bit, even if it's a bright star like Arcturus or Vega, it's going to be invisible. And then if you think you're dead on, and you see nothing, and what I always do is crank the gain up a lot, and I try to keep the exposure, half a second or faster at least initially. So when I spin it, because your update on your screen's only half a second down or whatever, so you're moving the focuser and you're not seeing how you're moving it. But I would move that in and out and see if it comes popping out of the background because it's so far out of focus.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys just got that in the chat, but I believe that link took you to my YouTube channel. It's called
I got it.
Alexander Astronomy.
Astronomy, yeah. I just put it on one of my bookmarks. Keep it up, kid. I want to see more stuff.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is well done.
Thank you so much for all of the help. I appreciate it very much.
Pretty soon you're going to be helping us. All right, who's next, guys? Anybody else has a picture? I mean, Dan, you have some pictures, don't you?
Yeah, I always have pictures.
Yeah, let's see some of your pictures. You always have great pictures.
Share. Well, lately I've been doing a lot with planetary nebula. And this one was a couple weeks ago. Can you see it?
Yeah, can you maximize it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is stunning.
This is Abel 35. And this one, I think I had like 22 hours on it.
Total, right? Every channel?
Yeah, total. This was just HA and O3. So you see the O3 in the teal color and the HA in the red. So
That looks cool, man. It looks like the back of a jet engine, you know, the cone coming out. The green would be like the yellow part.
It's actually a bow shock in the middle. That thing looks like the end of a bullet.
Yeah.
And the star in the very center is the star that created the nebula. It became a white dwarf, and it gets hot. It ionizes the gases that it shed as it was dying, and this is what you get.
Right.
Beautiful.
Typical planetary nebula. Very, very nice. And of course, we don't get to see Dan has got his telescope on the southern hemisphere, so don't try to look for this. You're not going to find it here.
Well,
so we have a special treat. Most of the stuff.
This, I think, is the longest exposure I ever took. This thing has got 126 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
What is it? We can't
this
see
is
it.
the dragon's egg.
We can't see it.
It's in Vela. You know,
You're not sharing it.
The screen share stop?
Oh, it's not. Sorry.
You know what? Before you stop sharing, I want you to show us your hamburger galaxy, because that's something that we could do from here.
Yeah, let me figure this out.
Xander, when that comes around, I bet you can do numbers with that. That's a cool galaxy.
I don't know how to get back.
When does that come?
In the springtime.
Spring. Leo.
The tail is
Constellation
Leo.
It's Leo.
Not coming up.
What? Are you picking the right screen?
Apparently not.
You can do all these amazing images, like unbelievable, but you know, we try to figure out how to work a computer.
Oh, here you are. You're hiding in the corner. I got it. Well, can you see me now?
I see you.
Is it the Daniel Nebula?
Yeah, now we got it. Okay. Let me
That's
dig that
fast,
one up
yeah.
again. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you can see it now?
yeah,
Yep.
that's
beautiful.
It's incredible.
So yeah, you to get all these details around the outside, the O3, it just takes forever. I mean, this is one of those things where you take pictures night after night and you look at the subs and there's nothing there. And then when you stack it up, you know, you get a nice result.
This is 127 hours, you said.
Yeah, I think this is the longest I've ever taken. This took a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
How long were each sub? 5 minutes?
Yeah, I pretty much only take 5-minute subs unless there's a reason not to. A lot of people still think that, you know, 1 10-minute sub is better than 2 5-minute subs, but with the noise in the cameras these days, it's just not true anymore. So I would take 2-minute subs or 1-minute subs if I didn't mind so much storage space. It just gets unwieldy to have so many frames. This one, I think, was over 1,500 5-minute subs. So when you get around to processing it, it's daunting to get that much computer power going to get this thing done.
It'll take forever, man.
What camera was this with?
This was with Moravian C4.
How many megapixels?
It's a 9 micron pixel. The resolution is 4096 by 4096. So I
And
don't
this
know.
is a mono camera, so you have to shoot a R channel, a B channel, or oxygen and hydrogen, all those separately.
Yeah, and in this case, this was just 2 filters. This was oxygen and H alpha. In fact, typically I would take stars separately, but in this case I didn't. You can see the stars are pretty blanched because you don't get any color with stars out of narrowband filters. But yeah, this was a challenging project. It took forever to process it as well. It was just difficult every which way you can look at it.
Really nice.
Do you have the oh, there's the pencil.
Now, interesting that well, actually, the one you just saw there, I don't know if you know the Fighting Dragons of Ara, but presumably that's what they were fighting over, is that egg in the nebula. It's in the, if you get a really wide field view of the Fighting Dragons of Ara, that's the egg is in the lower right-hand corner, and that's a pretty popular target. This was, I think, 38 hours. And Lil, I don't know if you remember, but I posted one that had like 22 hours.
Yeah.
I can dig it up and you can see what the difference is between 22 and 38 hours.
This is stunning.
But yeah, that was, let me see if I can find it.
You know, the very center of that picture there, that looks kind of like a log that's all like a honeycomb log. Years ago, like in the early 90s, I was up at Stellafane one night. It was about 3 a.m. Most people had gone to bed, and I walked to the top of the hill, and the guy had a 40-inch telescope up there, and there was no lines. He was just by himself up there. And I climbed up this ridiculously tall ladder, because it was like an F5 40-inch telescope. And he was looking at the Veil Nebula. And I just could move it around in there. And it was this honeycombed effect. It was like I was traveling through the center of it. It was really incredible. It's just right there, one of those images that kind of sticks in your mind. It reminds me of it a lot. But visually, it was very bright and very, in a honeycomb fashion like that, like a web like that. Just phenomenal.
Lou,
there's the hamburger to the right there.
Yeah, this was the hamburger. This one you can see that the stars have good color.
Yeah. Now, one thing about this, Xander, you'll notice this is this exquisite detail that could only be created with a mono camera. is when we have a one-shot color camera, you have to, there's a barometric, I'm sure you know, in front of the filter. So there's 2 greens, 1 red and 1 blue, and 4 pixels makes 1. This one, each pixel, there's no matrix. So the detail is, I mean, look at this. Look how stunning, it's crisp. It's like you can eat the hamburger.
If you look closely, there's galaxies all over the place in this thing. There's probably a few hundred galaxies in that picture.
And
Over here. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a galaxy.
Dan, talk about how this is interacting. The title. See how the tail on the galaxy, or how it's interacting tidally with another galaxy.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story, but yeah, this is fighting with another galaxy, and there's this X in here. I forget that story too, but yeah.
So basically, it's being pulled. There's a galaxy off to the left that must have passed by this too close, and it pulled some of this some of this galaxy, the cloud, off with it. And if you look at the X on the top part, see how it's bowed out? On the left side, it's bowed and it's a little bit lower. On the right side, it's bowed higher. That's because of the gravitational force that's pulling that part of the galaxy. And that's why it's uneven. It's pretty, you'll see this kind of phenomenon all over when you're taking pictures of deep sky stuff. There's a good example of that. And on M81, M82, which those are usually visible all year round. They're circumpolar. It just depends what time you're up. You know, sometimes you might have to be up at 4 a.m. But there's a lot of that tidal interaction, and it's really cool to. That's one of the things that sucks me into this hobby. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but that's I love this stuff. I'll talk about this all night.
Let me see. What else?
The helix looks great. Ooh, the running. You won an award for this.
Yeah, this picture I actually took in Florida. This was on a 6-inch refractor. And this only has a few hours. I did this in one night. And this one in APOD last February, the beginning of February.
You can definitely do this one, Xander. This is around in the wintertime.
Yeah, this I took last January at a star party in Central Florida.
Yeah, the cool thing about Florida, this is a little bit higher in the sky than it is for us, but still within reach. Wow, I love the detail in the dark dust lanes that you got.
Yeah, and this is only a few hours, so it doesn't really take a lot. And this was with this was a mono camera actually. It was an ASI 2600.
Oh, the mono version.
Yeah, the MC.
Well, that's a color, the MC.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It was a one-shot color, not mono. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that's the one I have.
Yeah, same camera.
I got to try this one again.
Yeah, and then there was another one that won an APOD. This thing. This was done actually on an ASI 6200. This is a mono though. And this was the HOO palette. So there's no sulfur, just hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is to the red channel and the oxygen is to the green and blue channel. And there's Bach granules. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're extremely dense nebula actually. And light just can't pass through them at all. And this is kind of, they're relatively rare. This is kind of one of the examples that people always use for those.
It gives it kind of like a 3D look,
Yeah.
like that. The center part looks like you can go into that, like a little cave or tunnel.
Yeah, speaking of caves or tunnels, there's one I just finished. The helix. This thing, actually, you're looking into a planetary nebula, and it's a couple trillion miles into that nebula that you're looking into a tunnel. And the very center of this blue field, this is the star that created the nebula right there where I'm pointing. And it's the same deal as the other planetary nebula. They form the same way, but they always have interesting shapes. This thing actually just won an award. It's the picture of the month in the astronomy magazine in Europe, the BBC Sky at Night. It's the picture of the month.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, I just found out that this morning. That was interesting. Well, anyway, I mean, I got tons, but I don't want to take up all the time. But
All
I
right.
could
Well,
go
anybody
on
else
and
have
on.
anything they want to share?
Beautiful.
John, do you have any pictures? No.
I have one I could share
Let's see it.
if you want.
The tough act to follow, John.
Yeah, no. Those are beautiful. Such resolution.
Yeah, I just said to Xander, it was a good thing he went before that. Those were beautiful, amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the Bach globules. I'm curious about those too. I have Cyril popped open here, and I reprocessed M16, the Eagle Nebula, and I'm playing around with Cyril. Cyril has a lot of different stacking options, and I've learned how to start writing my own scripts.
Nice.
It's kind of cool. You can do some weird filtering and things. And thanks, Lou. I think you're right. I went back and I restacked all the images, and it turns out having smoky images is better than not having images at all, because at least there's some photons. And as long as you normalize it, which it does in Cyril, the final background noise was lower, which is similar to what Tom was saying. And then you can stretch it more. But I'm shooting this with an 80mm refractor and the same camera Stan has. It's a planetary camera. It's not cooled. It's not really made for long exposures. But I'm taking some I'm taking some that are too long anyway. And the Bach globules I think there's some here. There's a tiny
Yeah,
one.
you can see them in there. You can see them in M8 too, has some.
And there's some up here. They're supposedly like little cocoons where the stars are being born, which is fascinating to me. But yeah.
Pillars of creation.
Exactly. And the other one I'll show real quick was the Bubble Nebula. This one was one I did. This gives an example of I did not do the calibration frames, the flats and biases. And this, you can see the walking noise, I believe it's called. So you'll see like a hot pixel.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look like a soap bubble though? Is that not cool? That is the coolest thing.
So I was excited, with one of the lower cost cameras to start to get something. And yeah, I've invested in this little $20 light frame. I'll stop my share. I'm going to try to do some better flats because I do have dust motes. But it's been fun. And
one thing I forgot to mention, Xander, if you decide to do deep sky, about flats, or for anybody else, when you do the flats, you have to do them, or John, maybe you should, since you brought it up, maybe you should explain this. You have to do them at the same time.
Oh, right.
With everything the same.
I'm going back into sharing real quick. I just wanted to show you what the flats look like.
Lou, I don't do flats. I have libraries of flats, and unless you change something, the flats work fine. I use the same flats for a long time.
Yeah, I might have to take one every 6 months, or if I do something stupid, you know, the next week. But you're right, you can use them over and over again, as long as your setup is stationary. But if you move your set, if you have a mobile,
Yeah. No, if you're moving your stuff around, but I use my flats until they stop working.
yeah, most of it, most people have mobile setup.
Yeah, I do too. And when the mobile one, I always take flats.
Yeah,
But
and that's the thing. Like you
yeah.
can't, you want to do it this, like the temperature matters because the focus changes with the temperature. So I try to take the flats the same night that I take, or with the same temperature. And then unless the temperature changes dramatically after that, those flats will work. I mean, I think within 10 degrees, I'm okay.
Yeah, and you can see the bias. So these are just ways to remove noise from your images.
Yeah, you could definitely see the pattern there.
Yeah. But you can start without them. I'd say start without it, keep it simple. And then when you start seeing junk show up, then you start getting more complicated. I know
Lou, do you
Stan got
prefer
some.
bias, or do you take flat darks or dark flat?
I do bias. I don't do flat. Flat darks are a real pain. I like bias, but we're getting a little complicated here, so I want to try to keep it as simple as possible.
I want to share one picture in particular. It's an unusual sunspot that I saw. You guys see that?
Oh, this is the one you posted.
Oh, the
Yeah,
swirl.
you see this is this one, this spiral structure in this sunspot. Even here, you can see the arms going off. It's really kind of interesting. I have not seen this before in a sunspot, but I mean it makes sense because it's if it's like a tube of magnetic flux, it's moving, it's twirling. I just never have seen it this clear at the surface. It was just weird. I only took one video of this area of the sun because I was looking at the other side where that big group was going off the edge, but it's
great
curious
granulation there too,
Yeah, I love that boiling effect.
But it was a curious thing. Anyway,
I'm just very impressed with how clear that came out.
Tom, it almost looks like someone pulled the plug on the drain in the sun, and the water it's just going down like you flush the toilet.
well,
Borealis effect.
yeah, one thing you'll find out, Xander, is that a lot of this depends on luck too. Just being at the right spot at the right time. Now, the more you shoot, the luckier you will be. It's like Gary Player used to say, the golfer. The more I practice, the luckier I get. It's one of these things. But this is luck from the seeing standpoint. I only took one video of this area. I caught it during we got maybe 4,000 frames. I caught it when the atmosphere was pretty quiet, evidently, and I got lucky. But there's
It's colorized. It's a black and white camera, right?
It's a black and white camera. Yeah, I have. This is the way.
Tom, show us the one video you have where you have the flare going off the side. It looks like it's dancing. It's like the big arch. Do you have that handy?
Yeah, that's also lucky too. Yeah, I got my gifts in one folder here, but this is the black and white version. I kind of like the color version, but a lot of times I like the black and white versions better. But in this case, it was okay. Gifts. See if I can.
So there must be some color palette or way to map monochrome to solar color.
The one coming off the edge, what was that? Oh, not that one. This one here, maybe. Well, hang on a
We're
second.
still seeing your original image.
Yeah, I
Tom.
know. I noticed that. Let me stop sharing this for a minute, and I'll bring up the other.
Oh, that looks cool.
Yeah, this kind of stuff. This is once
This is
again,
where-
this is a good example of luck because you happen to be there when this happens. You
This
know,
is why
there's
this
no
guy's the
other-
expert. I don't know.
there's
I
no
would
other-
call that luck.
Well,
Maybe there's a little bit of luck, but there's a lot of skill.
the timing is just all luck.
There's definitely
But-
skill there.
How long of over a time period was that like taken from? Was that taken just like a video, or was that like over a day?
That's
or-
taken. That's probably taken over roughly maybe an hour, 40 minutes to say an hour and a quarter. Usually, what I do if there's a nice prominence on the edge. Now there was nothing much there. I probably just. I don't know if I saw activity there earlier and I thought it might happen again, but usually if there's a decent prominence, sometimes I'll just take an image of it, and I'll take an image, say, every 3 minutes. And I keep them pretty short. I try to keep the exposures no longer than 30 seconds because they change so quickly that if you shoot longer than 30-second video, it starts to fuzz out the prominence. So, but I'll shoot like just a series, and I'll just keep shooting. And if it keeps moving and dancing, I'll just keep shooting. I can shoot maybe. I probably haven't shot longer than 3 hours is my longest. Over a 3-hour period, maybe 20 videos per hour type of thing, you know. So maybe I got 60 different stacked images in the end, which I just with basically free software can just stack together into a video. Between PIP, I use PIP, the PIPP to actually create the animations. I use something called I think it's IMGPP or something. It's really good for like lining up solar images together because you get them exactly aligned without trying to do it by hand, which is impossible.
So,
But,
Tommy, you were taking a 30-second video and then
and then I would wait
backing
maybe,
that, and then doing
Yeah.
another 30-second video after that,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
putting them
Well,
together.
I did the videos, and then I stacked them at the end. I just go in auto stacker because
Oh,
I'll do this and say I took 40 videos. I look at one or two of them and I go, okay, the number of frames I can stack where the quality is reasonable is maybe 400 frames or 500 frames. So I just do a bulk process. I just load them all up in the auto stacker in one fell swoop and just say, boom, give me 500 frame stacks. And I walk away for an hour and I come back and I have all these stacked images. And maybe of the 40 stacked images, maybe 3 are really fuzzy because if a plane goes by with the turbulence that a plane causes, or if it's just a noisy period in the atmosphere, then it gets fuzzy, it makes the video look worse, I'll just yank it. And maybe I'll use 35 of the stacked images and I'll just crank it through PIP and get a video. But yeah, it's all sped up so that few seconds is, like an hour. But
Great
but it
time.
does change. But thanks. But
awesome.
and I have
Anybody else have anything?
I have one example of basically what hang on for a second. Look at this. Of a why you this was I'll be there. This is just this is an example of using I with Cyril, I figured out finally how to do the photometric color calibration better on a more consistent basis. The one on the left isn't color calibrated, and there's the one on the right. This is just that. This is a short. This is like a 30-minute through an area of the sky. I was telling Joe and stuff that I couldn't see one star in Sagittarius. This was. I can't see M8 when it's on the meridian, when it's like 30 degrees above the horizon because of a neighbor's tree. So I got to catch it when it's more than halfway towards the southeast horizon. So this is about 15 degrees above the horizon.
Beautiful.
There isn't one star in the bottom 20 degrees. I mean, nothing. There's even Antares when it's down there is almost impossible to see.
Got
except
some
on a really
problems
good
there
day.
too.
But you can pull this out, but it's amazing. But this shows you the color calibration. But there's some of those funny
Those dark.
globulars too, those Bach globs
Yeah.
that it has. But anyway, but even with this is a plain old planetary camera. This is actually kind of an oddball. Almost nobody has it. It's the 482. It's like the 174 is kind of a famous black and white camera for solar and lunar and stuff from GWO. It's the most popular probably for solar imaging and stuff. But this 482 is basically the same pixel size, same sensor size, everything, except it's color. It's not exactly the same chip, but the specs are virtually the same, and everything else. So I bought it just for grins because it had a pretty decent size. It's like a 5.8 micropixel. So it's pretty good size. And one advantage, Lou, of using these planetary cameras is that the chips are small, so vignetting isn't a problem.
All right.
Because
Yeah.
nowhere near the edge of the frame.
Right.
I'm only using the center. Anyway,
Really nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
that's anyway.
Advantage there.
So that's
Anybody
it.
else have something they want to share?
I have two I can show real quick.
All right.
So it's been kind of sparse this month, but
Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah.
No. This is probably the last shot in the
Oh,
world
the
taken
pinwheel.
of M101 before the supernova. I went up to Frank's, I guess it was around the 26th. And Gary was up there and Al was up there. And it was really like it was just a smoke fest, and you can see it on the images. And I only got about 3 hours worth. But the nice thing was that it was kind of overhead. M101. So it's a very grainy image, and I try to do the best I could with it. But interestingly, I put this in deep sky stack right now. I was looking at the subs, and the scores for the subs were actually rising like around 1 a.m. The sky was becoming a little more transparent, but overall it was just really smoky and wasn't really much to work with. So that was about the best I could do with what was there.
You were so close to that supernova.
I know. It's probably the last, I opened up my phone like a day later and I'm looking at it, I'm like supernova, and I went back and I looked at it with, I had it look like 500 power to see if it was there. It's really not. So that's the one shot. And,
if you were in like in Japan or something, you would have caught it.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just one of those things, but no, it doesn't show it. And I just never got a chance to shoot.
But it's a nice shot that if you go and take it now and you pick up the nova, it's still bright.
Yeah, I guess
neat.
I could shoot it again. I'm surprised I got even what I got. I mean, it was, I got up there, I was almost up to Frank's house. And I had some discussions with Al about whether we were even going to go. And Al said, I'm going, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work out, drive an hour and a half. But I got up there and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? 3 hours of driving. But something showed up anyway,
The smoke's been tough. The
Yeah.
smoke's going to be with us, you know, right through the.
Don't
fall.
say that. I can't breathe. It's hurting my breathing, you know, and
Yeah, it's really bad. And this was just the other one. This was on,
my clothes smell like it. It's
yeah.
oh,
I
that's
just shot
nice.
this was on the first of
There's some nice sunspots there.
yeah, there's some spots, not a lot of action actually on the sun, but there were some nice spots and things like that. So it was a nice
What's your-
day. One of the few.
What solar scope, Joe?
This is a Coronado 90,
Okay.
and it's a double stack. It's a nice scope. It's about 15 years old now. I've had it for a long time. And I really like it. One issue is I would like to do the whole solar disc, and I'm having trouble doing that. It's hard for me to mosaic these. You know, I can do it in two shots, maybe 3 shots, but I think when I put it through the mosaic software, I think things moving so fast that by the time I get the videos, things have changed. So the edges don't really line up at all, you know, and so it's a little tricky to do that. I'm still working that out.
I've had mostly success, but not 100%. Maybe probably a 75% rate of success using Photoshop and just their auto merge.
Right.
Because I always take 2 because I usually shoot it. Now I have a smaller scope. I have a 60 millimeter lens.
Right.
But I always put a Barlow on. So I got a 1,000 millimeter focal length. The camera I'm using is the 174. It's not that big of a chip, so I can't get the whole sun or anything. But I'll do half and half, and it works about 3/4 of the time. I just say I just pull the 2 files and say merge, and it works beautifully. Sometimes I do it, and it's like, well, that's really crappy, you know. There's no difference I can tell between the ones I'm successful and the ones I'm not. So I never know if it's going to if I'm doing the work or not.
Yeah, if I do
But that's how
if I do subs for the moon, I have no trouble at all. But for some reason with the sun, I'm having difficulty, you know, and I think it's just because things are, you know, moving and the structures are different by the time I take the next video, and it's not recognizing them, you know. But
yeah, it misses a couple key things, whatever it latches on, you know, if it.
Right. So, oh well.
If no one else has any more pictures or anything else to share.
I've got one of M101.
Oh, all right, let's see it.
Supernova. It's the first, well, it was the first attempt to really do a electronic an EAA shot, and I just wanted to see what I could see. And I did a little bit of light manipulation with it, just using the ASI Air app. So let me see if I can get that up to show you guys. Let's see.
Maybe one of these days we'll do a workshop on ASI Air, since that seems to be very popular, that whole ecosystem. So for people that are just getting started, if they're interested in the ASI Air, or, you know, going through a Windows system, we can contrast and compare. If anybody, maybe we can take a poll on that.
You know what? It's apparently I didn't have a permission set right, and it's gonna force me to leave the meeting to make a change. So I'll
do you need to log out and log back in?
Yeah, it's what it wants me to do.
All right, go ahead, we'll wait for you.
Give me just a second, guys. Sorry.
No worries.
With the ASI Air, is that like a little router thing? Because Mom hates going out in the winter, and she doesn't come out with me in the winter.
Well,
And-
the ASI Air is actually a modified Raspberry Pi. So it's an all-in-one computer that has a wireless card on it. So, I mean, it's a computer in itself. So it's not really a router per se, but it's an all-in-one system. So you connect your camera and your mount and everything together with it, and then you can control it on an iPad or your phone.
Yeah,
and
the
with that,
advantage.
go ahead.
Xander.
You go ahead.
Can you
I was gonna
control
say
it
the
from like a
advantage to that
computer, a
is-
Windows computer?
No, that's the one limitation is it has
Ah.
to be either an Android or a iPad/iPhone with it. They don't have a Windows interface for some reason. That's the one weird thing that nobody has an answer to why they don't let you do it on a computer.
Yeah, you have to have if you're gonna be at home, you know, you have to weigh the benefits but if you're gonna be traveling to a dark sky site, I think an ASI Air might be easier.
So if I could say something, on a Windows PC, you can use like a BlueStacks emulator, which is what I use. So I use
Say that again, Steve. I can't hear you.
BlueStacks emulator
BlueStack?
on a Windows PC.
Okay.
You can control it with that, through that,
Through that, okay.
right?
So you could still use ASI Air at home on your PC.
I do it, that's what I do.
It's an Android emulator, right, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, Android app.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of ASI Air because I have everything's all Windows in my system. I like the flexibility of Windows, and I'm stationary. I have an Ethernet connection from my basement to my astronomy shed in the back, and I have no intention of ever picking up my telescope and going somewhere else. So that's why I like Windows.
That's me too.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
didn't
through
realize that there was
ASI
a
Air.
way.
My environment is ASI Air through my network to this emulator that I have on my personal computer here.
Right. Well, I mean, I never had any, so like, right now, everything I built is Windows, so
Yeah.
I'd have to learn a whole new system.
Well,
Would you happen to
that's
have
what
an
I'm saying, you
Android
don't have
phone
to.
by any chance?
What is it?
Well,
An Android phone?
actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think Windows 11 can sideload Android now. I haven't used Windows 11 specifically, but I want to say they added the functionality to do some of the Android stuff in Windows 11. So there may be some options to explore on that
I
one.
don't know. I like I mean, when Mars was around, I like eating my dinner and watching Mars on the TV. You know, it was just the coolest thing, you know. And
Yeah.
it's freezing outside. Everybody's out there freezing their butts off, and I'm inside with my laptop.
You can cast your iPad to your TV with the ASI Air, so you can still do all that too.
Every
Lou.
time I connect my iPad to my computer or my phone, there's always a problem. It disconnects or it connects to the wrong TV. Like one time my wife was watching it, I got yelled at because we have two Samsung TVs. One is a 65 inch one and one 75 inch, and I connected to the wrong one. And then that ruined the whole night. Anyway.
Main thing about ASI Air or whatever, it's an all-in-one system.
Yeah.
So it's whatever system works. I mean, Lou, I had a laptop and I couldn't get PhD2 to guide properly and all of that. So I was having so many problems, and ASI Air helped solve all of it. But I mean, I can understand, like, if you have a setup that you prefer, go with whatever
you have
you're
more
comfortable with.
flexibility with PhD2 and a Windows, but ASI Air, you're limited a little bit with PhD.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a detail. There's advantages and disadvantages. That's for another workshop because we can talk about this for hours.
The ASI Air says that it's easiest 1, 2, 3, and that has not been my experience. But
okay, Stanley, you ready with your?
I'm back. Let's see if I can share. That's what I want to show you. So here's my.
Oh, there you go.
We see
Oh,
it.
there you go.
Shot of.
And you shot this at game 0. Is that correct?
I did. I shot it at game 0.
Blew my mind.
And I didn't know what I was doing, but
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It worked out. I mean, I was pretty
How many is in this live
pleased
stack?
with that. I'm sorry.
How many images are in the live stack here?
I tell you what, give me just a second and I'll tell you exactly.
From the hot
I
pixels.
want to say I shot, they were, they were 30 seconds each, and I want to say I had about 20. I think I had 20, Lou. 20.
I was
30.
trying to figure out from your.
So it's about
size
10
of your
minutes
hot
total.
pixels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how did you process this image, Stan?
I used the ASI Air app on the iPad.
Okay.
You can pull up a histogram, and
Okay.
and
You could
it's got
stretch it.
little sliders on there, and I could do just a little light stretch there and make the background
Yeah.
about losing. I'm like I said, I'm still learning. So the first one I moved, there's like a white one and a dark one, and the one that you is so sensitive. Even if you zoom in on the histogram, when you just touch it, it makes a pretty dramatic change. So you got to kind of gingerly move that one around. But the other one, like I said, I liked it. I thought it looked good, and then I just pressed a little button, and boom, it was in the photo.
There you go. You got the supernova good,
Yeah,
shows up really well.
I have to tell you, when my previous attempt was to shoot the moon, and I was really underwhelmed with that. And then I thought, well, you know what, the clouds rolled in, the moon disappeared, and I said, well, the only spot of sky I still got is about where M101 is. I'll just see if I can do it. And I did a live stack, and it was pretty amazing, because the first image that came in, it really wasn't much there. But after about the fourth or fifth image, I was like, holy smokes, it's actually, I can see the galaxy.
Yeah.
And then it just,
and you can see the arms in the
better.
galaxy. That's kind of cool, You see the arms start showing up that you.
And then I can see the
visually.
supernova, and I'm like, oh my God, there it is.
That's really
Stan, can you
nice.
take bias frames? Because I bet you can clean this up a little bit just with bias.
I
Forget
did
dark.
actually. What I did was I didn't take them at the same time, because I
With
didn't know
bias, you don't
that
have
was
to.
really important to do it that way. But I did take, in fact, that was the frustrating thing. I was so happy to hear you say that taking flat frames is really hard, because man, I just got all over that. That's how I wound up with a gain of 0, because I was trying, my light was just too bright, and I didn't know. And finally have you guys ever seen or watched Keeve, the Lazy Geek?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And
Yeah,
he's good.
The Astro Imager has a t-shirt in their pocket. And I'm like, why? And then he showed the thing, and I'm
T-shirt
like,
flags.
I said, that's just crazy enough. It might work. And when it did, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I just can't. But so I did have those, but I took them in like the afternoon. It wasn't at night under the exact same conditions. So
You don't want you want the focus to be the same, and the orientation of the camera to be the same.
Yeah.
The temperature doesn't matter that, but you want it pretty clean, just as long as it's close enough to the focus. But bias frames though, you can do them anytime. If you can,
okay.
Right now, can you put the lens cap on and take 150 bias? And when you stack it, put the bias in there, and I bet you it'll clean up a lot of this noise. Like, see the pattern you have in the background?
Hey Lou, there's one issue. This is a live stack, so I don't think the originals are saved. I ran into this issue.
What it does is it makes
Depends on what the setting is.
Correct.
You can
I
save
don't know.
all,
I'm telling you, I don't know ASI Air. So,
You can save individual frames, I think.
I did
Okay.
save individual frames, and I did do a flat, a bias, and a dark. I did all three.
do 150 bias.
That's let's see, I can tell you what I did.
When I
10,000 bucks.
No, it's like
I
they're
didn't
really
do 150.
fast exposures.
I think I did
150 should take like 5 minutes.
yeah, I did 50 bias frames, 1 second each, 5 darks at
1
30
second's too long.
and then 25 flats at 2 seconds.
All right, so that's what happened. If you do the bias too long, you're not getting the right signal. You're gonna add noise.
Okay,
So you
What
want to
speed
shoot
do
at
you
the
recommend?
fastest shutter speed possible
okay.
of your camera and redo the bias. I'm telling you, it'll improve. And the darks, as long as at the same temperature, you can do them anytime, as long as they're the same temperature.
Okay.
Stan, on the ASI Air, I think if you go to the auto plan and you can select whether to flat a bias or dark, and I'm pretty sure if you select bias, it gives you the fastest it can dry.
Okay.
Yeah, there's settings in the ASI. I mean, I don't know the ASI are the best either, but
I'm not a
there
fan.
are ways you can take it. So
Okay. Give it a shot.
Can I ask you what your exposure time is?
I did for this particular shot, it was my exposures were, I think I limited them to 30 seconds.
It's pretty impressive.
That's
Yeah,
really
they were
good.
30 seconds each.
At F.
When I do
F7.1, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
when I do live stacks on the ASI Air Pro, I can still pull all the individual photos out and do another stack on the PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
When you
use
look
some
at
use
it-
ASI, but I use Sharp Cap, and I always save the raws just in case an airplane goes through or some satellite goes through. I can just yank it out later. And if it doesn't, I periodically save the stack, but if there's a problem, I can just restack it later.
Yeah, the when I do the lights, I'm having it save all of the frames, so I could redo the.
Yeah, you could stack it.
Yeah, I could redo that.
Anybody else?
Oh, I'll put in one.
All right.
There you go.
After
What is-
Doug,
Nice
Yeah,
job,
I'm
Stan.
sorry, we've been going.
Yeah,
Good job for the first time, man. It's pretty cool.
Let's see if this works for me. I never shared my screen before. This was the same night. I think, Joe, you were out there at Blue Mountain Vista.
Yeah,
And it was
Doug, you
Smoke
were there,
City.
that's right.
But I had a place to stay out there. So I was committed to being there all night. So at about like midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning, I said, what am I going to do? And M51 was at the zenith at that time. So I said, well, let's just do share, I guess.
that's one of my favorites.
Oh, okay, hold it. Let's try this. Okay, share desktop one.
Wow.
So I got, and that's only about 70, that's about 80 minutes. Right there.
That's
Through,
pretty.
I like the color and the content.
well, I lied about the color. So it's not, but I like the color too, but I don't think nature agrees with me. But it's a cool color.
You didn't color calibrate it?
Yeah, I did, but I pushed sometime down way near the end, I pushed the color temperature but down to no, I pushed the color temperature like way down into blue.
So you're coming clean.
Yeah. So yeah, I took a lot out. Yeah, this is I've been playing around with the colors in pixel math recently, so this is not a particularly ethical image.
Ethical, I like that. It's astrophotography.
It's
man.
real
fun.
astrophotography.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, all right.
That's
So
great.
that's it, I guess. And here it is, 10 o'clock at night. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here.
Very nice.
Okay.
All right, if you guys are not tired yet, I can go through the PixInsight. What I was gonna show was the workflow through either I can do the WBPP, which some people asked, or the workflow afterwards on how to stretch and bring out the H alpha signal.
Lou, can I just show you one thing?
Sure.
I want to show you guys what I got last night on that planetary nebula. See if you can see what I see.
The dog face.
Dog face.
You found it?
Yeah, let me share the screen. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where's the
So-
dog? Let me see the dog.
This is the H alpha. This is about 3 hours of 5-minute H alpha. So there's something there. Right here, you need a little imagination, but you see there's an eye and there's an eye and there's the nose.
I can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a typical feature of a planetary nebula is to have a bow shock. And this, the nose, could be a bow shock from the formation of the nebula. And there's also something else going on over here, but I don't have enough detail yet. After I only had 4 or 5 subs, I processed them really quickly, and there looked like it was like a splash. And then as I added more subs, it went away. Over here, this is the H alpha along with the O3, and well, you can see the H alpha is pretty strong, the red. And again, you can see that thing in the middle. You kind of see the dog there.
All right.
And I'm guessing that this is the tip of that bow shock, and eventually you put the stars in, you'll see a star right there in the middle. And this is about 6 hours worth of data. And if you see a sub, in fact, I can show you that I'm shooting right as we speak. That's a sub. There's absolutely nothing there.
Hmm.
And this is Nina, by the way. It's I
Can you
guess,
stretch that at all?
well, yeah, I mean, you
While
wouldn't
it's
see anything
collecting.
that wasn't stressed, but yeah, there's an auto stretch in Nina for for the display.
Sometimes, Dan, what I do if I can't see anything, I'll invert the image and I'll try to stretch it inverted. And sometimes so the black turns white and vice versa. And sometimes that might reveal something.
Well, you can see more with the stars removed. You can't see anything with the stars there. So after I processed it, I took the stars away. This is chilly, by the way, this computer you're looking at.
There's a lot of hydrogen alpha in that picture. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this in the Milky Way somewhere?
That's the inverse.
There you
don't
go.
see anything. Let me try to pull that down a little bit. No, it's not going to happen. Oh, because it's inverted.
Yeah, you're going backwards. There you go.
Yeah.
There's some detail there.
Yeah, there's something going on right here. And I think they had it right. I think there's actually something there. But yeah, there's a lot of signal. You probably have to spend 30, 40 hours until you can get enough detail to actually see if there's anything there. But only after, this is only 3 hours on the H alpha, and I think it's a pretty good signal. All right, well, that's what I wanted to show you.
Yeah. Huh.
All right.
That's cool.
Nice. All right. Well, you guys have energy.
Well, we got to go. So thank you so much. Have a great night. And hopefully we'll have some clear
Yeah.
weather between now and the next meeting, and Xander can get
Yeah,
some,
really.
We can only hope.
more.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you're on
you.
the road.
Have a wonderful night.
Yeah. Post your stuff
Take
on your
care.
website, on your
Oh,
YouTube
How
page.
do you do that on the dvaa.org? How do you like post a picture? Because I see people like have like their little photo albums on the photos.
Oh, here, I can walk you through it if you have a second.
Mhm.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Nope.
I think, there we go. You see my browser?
Not right now. I don't know if
Hold
I don't
on
know
a
if
minute.
it's on my end or your end. I'm not
Can
sure.
you see my browser?
Here we go.
Yes. Now I can.
All right. Okay, so you would go to photos. No.
Gotta make sure
no,
you're
no,
logged
no.
in.
You'd go to your profile right here. And then down here, you go to photo albums. And then add a photo album. And then you would just, make it from there. Like for example, if you want to look at the photo album, that's my photo album through there. But so basically what you do is you go to your name, click my profile, photo albums, and add a photo album. Call it whatever you want to call it. And then it'll show up here.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Got it? You can
Yep.
always look back at the video. I'll post
Yeah.
this when we're done. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Yeah,
night,
you got
everybody.
it.
Yeah,
See
take care.
Bye
Good
bye.
you can make
Bye
it.
now.
Take care.
Right.
All right, guys. You guys have energy for,
I gotta get rolling myself, but
all right. Anybody interested in,
it was good meeting.
I'm
I'll
gonna
have
bow
it.
out.
Yeah, I don't think, not tonight, I don't think.
no? Okay, because
I think we're
somebody asked, I
interested,
made
Lou,
a
because we
presentation. You
talked a lot.
knuckleheads asked
Yeah.
me.
It was a good chat.
Hey,
Okay.
John, just one comment. I like the email you sent with all the analysis.
I got real geeky this weekend.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was going to send you an email, but I figured I'm going to see you tonight anyway, so I'll just tell you here. But that was neat. It was well done.
Yeah. The thing, it's weird that my impression is shooting in smoke is okay. It's kind of like if you have, say, an F7 system shooting through smoke, it's like an F10.
Yeah, really.
That's how I think of it almost. It's like you're still getting data, but it's just slower.
Well, hey, did you ever see my Pac-Man?
I liked your reply. You sent a really lovely picture that you said you got through smoke. And
When you looked at the stars, the smoke, now it doesn't always work. The smoke particles have to be the right size. I
yeah,
got lucky, right? And they looked like they were attached and like dancing together. And that was pure luck. And that's why
Yeah.
I just kept going. And then, so from that image, I had a total of 46 hours.
oh wow.
Only 18 hours were smoke. I wish all 46 were smoke because
Oh
that
my gosh.
would have really made them dance. So I isolated only the smokiness and I processed only those. And I compared it to the 40, then the one with the clean data, the
Mhm.
picture definitely looked better. I mean, it was, SNR was better,
Yeah.
but it was a unique situation that I don't think I'd be able to catch again, the other way. So
Wait a few weeks, you'll get some more smoke.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right. No, I don't want any more smoke. I want
You
the
take
smoke.
care, guys. Good seeing
Yeah,
everybody.
thanks a lot. Good to see everybody.
Dude,
All right, guys.
night.
Bye.
Yeah.
Take care, Steve.